starting with verse 16. And this might sound familiar to you. It says, "So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, 'Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you.' Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lords, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musicians were brought before him. Also, his sleep went from him." I'm going to ask my dad if he'll pray over the message this morning.
Father, we just ask right now, Lord, you just know this word, God, in our ears. God, let us get out of this sermon, Lord, that you want us to have. We give you praise, Lord.
Amen. You can be seated this morning. So some interesting developments going on here. All right, Daniel's been tossed into a den of lions. That sounds real fun, doesn't it? Man, I mean, they would look at me, those 9 lions would look at me in that den, and they would say, "Man, we finally got some meat." You know. And it's some flavorful meat too, because you know the fat is where the flavor is. And there's definitely fat. So they look at me, man, their lips were just, man. I tell you what, I drove down the Atlanta highway from work one day, not too long ago, and I passed Outback, and you could smell this thing.
Yes.
I was like, I just wanted to pull in. I text Casey, I was sitting at that red light right there, and it wasn't helping because I was sitting there marinating, salivating. So Casey said, "Man, Outback smells amazing right now." So these lions, you gotta think they're in there, they're hungry. They're ready to eat. Much like a lot of y'all probably are. Probably thinking about, man, what can we get for lunch today? Where are we going? Y'all can talk about that later. Come down here and pray about it at the altar if you want to. Pray that God sends you in the right direction so y'all can get some good food. But we're not there right now. These lions were, it was feeding time. And they were ready. So Daniel gets tossed in this den of lions. Now, it seems kind of odd here when you read this passage that kind of the king's side of this passage, it says that the king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signets of his lords. And then it says the king went to his palace and he spent the night fasting. And no musicians were brought before him, and his sleep went from him. So this guy, just to put it in modern day terms, this happened and he went home, he didn't eat. He was sick to his stomach. He didn't want to watch TV. He didn't have any care for anything that was going on the TV or YouTube or anything like that. And then it says that his sleep left him. His sleep left him. What I want you to know is that Daniel was not just an ordinary person in the king's eyes. He wasn't just some, palace boy or some servant. The king held Daniel in high regard. Daniel had been set as an administrator over provinces. So they broke up into 120 different provinces in this time. And they set lords over all these provinces, people to oversee them. If you want to kind of look at it, this is the way I kind of viewed it in my own head, is it's kind of like, one state and a bunch of different counties. Now, everybody knows that, each county has their own, representative in some, way or another. And then you got different sub-representatives. Just like I saw our great mayor of Sandy Cross the other week, Jay Paul. You got different people set in place to oversee, the goings on, of different things. But Daniel was a step even higher than that, because the king took in place some administrators over all of those provinces. And it says in the Word that even among those administrators, that Daniel stood out, that he had separated himself, that he was somebody that was right next to the king. He was his right-hand man. How many of y'all have got somebody like that is just right there next to you, that it's ride or die? You know that it doesn't matter what's going on, that they're going to be right there with you no matter what. That even if they have to deliver some bad news to you, that you know that they're going to be honest, they're going to be truthful, and they'll say, hey, I hate to say it, but this is what's up. We need people like that in our life. We need people that aren't going to butter us up all the time. We need people that are going to be honest with us. That if they see an issue, that they're going to step up and they're going to say, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you this, but we got to fix this. I love you, but we got to fix this. Everybody needs somebody like that. Now, you get a whole group of people like that, and sometimes it can be a little overbearing. But we all need that friend. We all need somebody that we can go to. And Daniel, just from, every time I've read this passage, it feels like the king was having to throw his friend into this den of lions. Because he told him, he said, your God, who you continuously serve, he will deliver you. I think the king had some faith here of what was going to happen as well. I think he knew. He knew how this was going to play out. So Daniel, as I said, he stood out. Why did Daniel stand out? Daniel stood out because Daniel had an excellent spirit. That's something that could be longed for nowadays, is that he always had an excellent spirit. I imagine Daniel probably had that Chick-fil-A mentality. We'll get back on the Chick-fil-A. You know what, Kanye talks about it, so I can't let Kanye be the only one talking about Chick-fil-A. But it's the same way when I go to work. When I go to work, my owner, Mr. Steve Middlebrooks, he's got some things that he wants you to do, and there are some things that, he is so, and he calls them processes. And they are processes. But we should be able to take these things, and after we do them for so long, or a little bit of time, they shouldn't be a process anymore. It should be a habit. It should be a habit. And what he wants us to do is when you go up to greet somebody when they come up, that you greet them with a handshake and a smile, and you welcome them. Thank you for coming today. My name is Levi. How can I be of assistance? When they say thank you, you return with, it's my pleasure. Because it should be our pleasure. It should be our pleasure to be excellent. It shouldn't be anything that we're forced to do. We shouldn't have to be forced to smile and to be compassionate and love people. That should be something that comes naturally for us. It should. We're the Christians, right? We're the children of God. We've got nothing to be all worried and be all upset about. We should have joy inside of us. And Daniel had that excellent spirit. Now, one thing that I've heard preachers say before, and that I've seen on the internet and things like that I really love, and I thought about this, is that if you were accused of being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to find you guilty? Think about that. Would there be enough evidence to find you guilty? Would there be enough proof that you were following God in every single way that you could? And not just here on Sunday mornings, but when you go to work, when you're out there and your kids are playing soccer and there's a bad call made. I'm not putting myself outside that box. I talked to a referee earlier this week. He had brought his car in, and I said, "Brother," he told me, he said, I'm leaving tonight to go referee the boys basketball game for the high school at Dover. And I told him, I said, "I feel sorry for you." I said, "I feel sorry for you." I said, because I've yelled at my fair share of referees before. I said, but I've been in your shoes before too. And I will tell you what, if y'all want to talk about a tough job, y'all go stand behind the plate, not at the high school, not at the Braves game. You go stand behind the plate at one of those Little League games up there at the rec department. And I tell you what, if you can still get out of that place without having cussed inside your head or something, whew, you did a good job. Now, I want to applaud our people that run the rec department. I believe that it was Michael and Tina White that put this in place. I might be wrong, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But they have since built like a little wall back there and put up a screen behind the plate so parents can't sit behind there. Because I tell you what, they would sit back there and they'd let me have it. They would. And it was tough. That may be the toughest job I've ever done. Maybe. But it's tough. And you want to be excellent. You want to be right. So it's tough when people are coming at you and they're all mad at you and upset. But we can't let it affect who we are.
That's right, amen.
We can't let it show through in our actions. We can't lash out at somebody. We've got to learn to use those fruits of the Spirit that God has instilled inside of us, that gentleness, that self-control.
Yeah.
Man, I'm preaching to myself this morning.
That's good.
I'm just saying. I don't know if I'm preaching to everybody in here, if I'm just preaching to me. But I'm going to go ahead and talk to myself for a second, if that's all right with y'all. And if y'all want to give a little amen every now and then, y'all go ahead. Feel free. But we want to be excellent. Daniel wasn't just excellent in his spirit, but he was an excellent businessman as well. He had integrity. He was honest. He worked hard. How many of y'all can say the same thing about yourselves? I honestly feel like most people in here could. I do. We've got a great group of people in here. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short of having that mentality of excellence in your mind that you say, you know what? I do a good job. I am honest. I do work hard. I've got integrity. Don't sell yourself short on that. If you've got that, man, step out there in boldness and every day just go out there and try and kill it. Every day go out there and try and let people see your excellence through your work ethic. And Daniel had this. Daniel had been called to the king a lot like Joseph was called to Pharaoh because the king wanted a dream interpreted. And all the wise men couldn't interpret the dream, and the king got all mad. And so Daniel heard about it, and he said, you know what, I can interpret your dream. He had a skill set. And I can tell you this, the king was so mad that he wanted to kill the wise men for not being able to interpret his dream. And Daniel, in his excellence, in his spirit, he stepped up and he says, you know what, king, don't kill them. I'll come interpret your dream, but don't kill the wise men. They're there for a purpose. They may not be able to interpret your dream, but they're still wise men. I saw a thing on Facebook the other day that just drove me nuts. One of my friends posted up that there was a church that literally asked the older people to stop coming to the church because they wanted a younger generation to come in. I can go ahead and tell you that we are not where we're at right now without our elders in this church and without the wisdom and knowledge that they have. And they are very welcome in this place. We need them. We need those. So don't kill the elders. Don't kill off the wise men. And you know, God wasn't just found in Daniel's worship. He was found in every part of his life. You could find God. You could find purpose. Everything he did, you had that purpose right there. And, you know, they couldn't say that Daniel was not qualified because he had proven himself to the king in several situations. He had proven himself to the king. And so just know that if you've been working tirelessly, if you've had times where you feel like, I don't know if it's worth all of this work, just know that it's being taken notice by somebody. And one day it's going to pay off. One day it is. But I know I said in the message a while back that a lot of people want the promotion without putting the work in. They want the raise without putting in the blood, sweat, and tears. It's going to require some work on your part. So just go out there and do it. As I said Wednesday night, put your hand to the plow and just move forward. Just get to work. God will take care of it. And you know what? You might not get that promotion at work that you're looking for, but who's to say that God won't give you a little promotion there? That God won't give you a raise, that all of a sudden you'll come up to your mailbox and find a check that you weren't even expecting. Because that's how God takes care of his people. He'll make sure you're taken care of. So he had that excellent spirit about him. So these administrators, they got mad. They got jealous. We live in a world of people that will look at you and they'll be jealous a lot of times. If they see you getting blessed, they'll get jealous. And what's funny about this is that a lot of times people will look at a situation like that, and instead of trying to get what you've got as far as that spirit, they just want to do away with you. They just want to push you to the side. They want to get you out of the picture. That's what they wanted to do with Daniel. These other administrators, they said, you know what, we got to find a way to get Daniel out of the picture. So they started trying to find fault in Daniel. And you know what? I'd love to have what happened with Daniel happen to me. I'm not saying it would, because I'm not perfect, and neither was Daniel. But Daniel, with his excellence, I'd love to think that the only fault that someone could find in me was that I was faithful to God. There was nothing to be found on Daniel. Daniel was a true worshiper. He was a true follower. He was true in his ways. And what I want to ask you this morning is, are we conducting ourselves like Christians? Are you conducting yourself like a Christian? And when you think about that word Christian, you think about that label, you got Christ right there at the beginning. Christ right there at the beginning. So what I'm asking you this morning is, are we conducting ourselves like Christ? And Levi, some of you might say, Levi, that's some big shoes to fill right there, man. Trying to be like Christ. Well, I want you to know in Genesis chapter 1, right there at the beginning of the book, it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. You were created in the image of God. Ephesians 5:1 says, therefore be imitators of God as dear children. Imitators. We're supposed to be trying our best to be like Jesus. We're supposed to be out there trying our best to handle ourselves in a way that would be not only pleasing to God, but it would be the same way that He would handle something. And you say, well, I'm not God. How do I know, how He'd handle something? Ask Him. When I was growing up and when I was a teenager, the big thing was for people to have these bracelets that had 4 little letters on them. And it was so simple to think about, but it's so powerful when you look at the message behind it. WWJD. What would Jesus do? And if you get in a situation and you can stop, notice first, when the situation hits, stop. Don't react out of anger. Don't react out of jealousy. Just stop. Be still for a second. And ask yourself, what would Jesus do in this situation? What would He do? What are the words that He would say? How would He reach out to somebody? And it's so simple to think about, but it's so powerful. What would Jesus have us do? And when I read that verse, Ephesians 5:1, it says, therefore be imitators of God as dear children. That just hit me slap between the eyes. Because it's funny that a lot of people tell me I look like my dad. And some people see it, some people don't. And I told them, I said, I thought you were better looking than that, Daddy. Just being honest. But what's weird, what's more weird than that, and I'm sure you'll probably see some of this, but what's weird is that me and him have a lot of the same mannerisms as well. That, if you get on the phone with us, a lot of times, we word things the same way. We sometimes maybe sound the same way. But it's weird how your children will start to imitate you. And that's something that I'm struggling with right now. Is that I've got 2 little girls that are watching everything I do. And if I say a word, you know what? They think it's okay. They think it's okay to say it because they're looking at me and they're saying, well, you know what? Daddy said it. If they see me doing something, they say it's okay because Daddy's doing it. They see me all angry about something, and that's one thing that I'm struggling with. I'm the type of person, and I don't want y'all to think any less of me. I'm human, okay? But, man, there's times when I get angry that, man, I just want to, just punch something. Not somebody, something. And we don't have any sheetrock damage in the new house so far, so doing good. My mama said yet. Waiting to get that call. Matthew. Thank you, brother. It's good to have Matthew Soto in church with us this morning. That is a young man who gets the spirit of excellence. That's right. He is. But I was watching a comedian earlier this week, and he said, well, when you get, if you're worried about getting angry like that, you need to, go through in your house and get you a stud finder and find all your studs. So then when you at least hit the wall, you ain't breaking your hand on a stud, or you can hit through, between the studs and just mess up the sheetrock. I'm like, it's funny. It was funny listening to him. He said if he had a stud finder, he said all he'd probably do with it is run it across and then it'd start beeping. Beep, 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 beep. It's like, oh, here's your stud, baby. I'm not going to lie, we did that at work sometimes. But it shouldn't come to that. We should be able to control ourselves. We should be able to handle ourselves. And, I've got children. I've got those little girls that are looking at me. They're looking at me to show them how to act. They're looking at me to show them, how they should handle situations. And I tell you what, when it gets tough, when things seem dark, when, it seems like all hell's breaking loose, on your finances or your marriage or whatever it is. I want them to see somebody that said, you know what, I'm going to stop, I'm going to be still, I'm going to hit my knees, and I'm going to pray to God for guidance and direction. So they couldn't find anything on Daniel. So guess what? They had to get creative. I want you to know this morning that your enemy has the power to get creative. Think about that. Your enemy has the power to get creative. He'll find a way to get you. He said, you know what, I'm going to get you. I'm going to find a way. Be sitting there in a room trying to figure out, all right, how can we get them? But then I got to think about, you know what the sad thing is the hard time? I mean, the sad part is the fact that a lot of times, they don't even have to try that hard. They can get us just like that. Something can pop up and just make me so angry. Something can pop up and just ruin my day. Something can pop up and just make me want to say, you know what, I'm done with this. And there goes that spirit of excellence. Just one little thing just pushing you over the edge and you're done. Am I preaching to somebody this morning?
Yes.
It's tough. Life's tough. That spirit of excellence is what we need. Daniel had that. I want you to know that Daniel, as an administrator, God had placed him where He wanted him. Daniel, as an administrator, left work and he prayed every day at the 3rd, the 6th, and the 9th hour. I can't remember what it is back in the day. Maybe some elders can share some wisdom and knowledge here, but what was it back in the day that you were supposed to drink Dr. Pepper at certain times or something like that? That, you know, there was like a running ad or a joke or something that, you're supposed to drink Dr. Pepper or something at like 12 and 2, and it was it was a campaign. What's that now? Oh, it was on the bottle. All right. Well, I really got a bottle. But Daniel, he had a plan. He had a set time. He had time set away for God. That's something that we all need. Every single person in this room needs a time set away for just you and God. And some people might say, well, you know what? 3 times a day, that's tough. Is it? It didn't say here 3 times a day that he spent an hour in prayer. It just says that he prayed at the 3rd, the 6th, and the 9th hour. It doesn't say how long he prayed. But you know what? He had time set away. He had set that time to pray. Also, he prayed in an elevated room. And when I got to thinking about that, I said, you know what? If I want to see God move greater in my life than ever before, I need to be faithful in prayer, and I need to find myself an upper room. Because a lot of people want the upper room atmosphere, but they don't want to take the time to find an upper room. They don't want to take time to find a place where they can get lost in God and get lost in His presence and in His power. So there was no doubting or questioning who Daniel answered to, who Daniel served. And it wasn't the king. It was God. Daniel wasn't a chameleon that just blended in with everyone else. We've got too many Christians out there that are chameleons. That, you know what, they come in here and they blend in. Yeah, but guess what? They go out there and they do the same exact thing. They blend in with everybody else. They go to the bar. They blend in with them. We got joking around about it last night, but they go to the strip club. They blend in with them. People might be upset for me saying something about the strip club. Hey, that's real world stuff. People hanging out in the strip club. Not a good thing. We got joking around last night about that, what if we had strippers in here? And all of a sudden we noticed that we had more dollar bills in the offering plate. I said, at least they're coming to church. They're starting, to go down the right path.
That's right. Giving it back.
Yeah. But I said, another thing is maybe, they're taking some of the dollar bills away from the men and women that would have been in the strip club.
That's right.
So, hey, come as you are.
Amen.
You're welcome in this place.
Yes.
But don't be a chameleon. Don't just go out there and blend with the world. It says in Romans 12:2, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove. Notice there's that word, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. As I said, Daniel had proved himself. What have you proved? What have I proved? Have I proved that God is working in every single part of my life? No matter whether it's here or at work or out refereeing a ball game or watching a ball game, or what have I proved? Is the proof in the pudding? I've never understood that saying. Is the proof in the pudding? And I'm trying to say, where is this pudding? Where is this pudding that we're supposed to be eating? Because that's where the proof is. So they devised a plan to get King Darius to pass a law that the people could only pray to him for 30 days. The administrators came to him and they put him under pressure. They said, you know what, you need to do this. You need to do this right now, because they knew in the back of their mind that, there was one person that Daniel was faithful to. And they said, if we can't attack him in any of these other ways, we're going to find a back door to try and attack him from. And we're going to attack his purpose in life and who he serves. We're going to try and attack him through that. Now imagine a world, our world's already bad enough with prayer. Imagine a world with no prayer. Imagine a world with no communication going up between us and God. That would just completely cut off that line of communication. That'd be tough. It says in 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18, it says, rejoice always, pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Pray without ceasing. So the king passed this law, and then Daniel had to make a decision. He was at a crossroads. Anybody ever had to make tough decisions before? Things can be tough sometimes. But I want you to know that Daniel, he didn't back down. He didn't hide. He stayed true to his God. And guess what? After they passed this law, they followed Daniel as he left from work to go pray. And they found him praying in that upper room. And they said, you know what? We got you. And I know it sounds rough, but man, if I'm going to be arrested, I'd love to be arrested for a reason like that. If they were to take me away, I'd love for them to take me away knowing that I was in God's perfect will and that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Because I've got something inside of me that the world can't give and the world can't take it away. And I'm going to hold on to that. You can't go out and buy it. It's mine. It's yours. And guess what? Just like I said, it's free. A lot of times we talk about, that you have to sell people, you have to sell Jesus to people. You have to sell church to people. We shouldn't have to do that.
That's right.
God's got something free for you this morning. Not only does He have something free, but He's got freedom for us this morning. Daniel 6, 20 through 23. It says, "And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Then Daniel said to the king, "O king, live forever. My God sent His angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they had not hurt me, because I was found innocent before Him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you." Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God. He believed. We've got to have that belief. We've got to have that faith in God. And I talked about it Wednesday night, but we don't need yesterday's faith. And you can think about it someday all you want to, but you got to have faith right now that no matter what you're in, that God's going to deliver you. It says it twice in here, in these passages. And I love this word. It says that Daniel served his God continually. Continually. That means there was no starting point. There was no ending point. There was nothing in the middle. There was just God being served throughout the whole thing. And you got so many people that when stuff gets hard, or when they're at a crossroads, or if they feel like they've been beaten down, they just want to walk away from their relationship with God. And I'm thinking, that's when you should be serving God the hardest, is when the times are dark. When everything seems that it's just, going crazy. That's when we should be serving God the most. Continuously. There shouldn't be any, Levi served God a lot, during this point in his life, because, everything was good. He had beautiful babies. His house, was built. His car was paid off, all this stuff. But then all of a sudden, something happened, and he hit that valley, and Levi didn't serve God like he should have. I don't want that to be said about me. I want God to be served continuously by me. I want people to see God being served continuously in each and every one of us, no matter how tall the mountain is or how low the valley is. And there's going to be valleys in your life. There are. There's going to be things that seem insurmountable, that seem maybe impossible to get through. But just know that God is going to be right there in the midst.
That's right.
And one thing that's funny is that it's been said before that Daniel probably slept better than the king that night. That Daniel, in the lion's den, slept better than the king did in his own bed. That's incredible to think about. And he probably did, because you know what? He had that peace. He had that peace of knowing that, God is going to take care of me. No matter what the need. No matter what the problem. No matter what the concern. That God's going to take care of me. If you'll stand with me this morning. Daniel, when he proclaimed here in verse 21, he says that 22, it says, "My God sent His angel and shut the lions' mouths." Shut their mouths. And I want you to know that you may be in a place right now that you feel like you've been thrown into, and there's a bunch of hungry lions sitting around just waiting to devour you. that, as I said before, that they're salivating, they're ready to get a piece of you. But I want you to know that God can shut their mouths. That there won't be a roar, there won't be anything that you got to worry about. Because God will take care of it. And I don't know what you're facing this morning. I don't know where you're at this morning. But what I do know is that it doesn't matter where you're at. You can be facing a giant. You can be cast into a fiery furnace. You can be cast into a lion's den. It doesn't matter. Let me rephrase that right here. You can be battling addiction. You can be battling depression. You can be battling cancer. You can be battling financial debt. It does not matter. It doesn't matter what your lion's den is. You know what? If you feel like you've been cast in there, just go ahead and praise God while you're in there. Because He's got the deliverance for you. If we're faithful to Him, He will be faithful to us. He will be there right in the midst. And you know what? We're going to come out unscathed. We can come out without a mark on us this morning. But what God is wanting is He's wanting a people that are desiring to be right where they need to be in Him. He's desiring for a people that are after His own heart. People that are wanting to be like Him. People that are going to serve Him in spirit and in truth. That's what He's looking for. And as long as you've got God in your presence, you've got nothing to fear. It doesn't say that, when Daniel found out that he was going to be cast into the lion's den, that, he took off running, or that, he tried to escape, or, that he was afraid and all this stuff. It doesn't say that. And I don't know if he was or not. You can read between the lines if you want to, but I feel like he had that boldness inside of him that he knew that God was going to bring him through this. And you know what? That's what we need to do. We need to attack our problems. Don't let your problems attack you. Attack your problems with God, with prayer, with fasting. Because we've got a God that loves us. We've got a God that will take care of us. Joshua 1:9, it says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Wherever. It doesn't matter. Lion's den, lowest part of the valley, top of the mountain. God's there with you. If you want Him to be. If you allow Him to be. And that's where the question comes in hand. The question is not that will God be there? It's do we want Him there? Have we asked Him to be there? Have we included Him in everything that we've got going on?